Hooray! We're here tonight with Khaliela Wright, and we've got so many anxious people wanting to hear what she has to say about author newsletters. And she has a wonderful presentation for us. I'm so happy to have you with us. She's been extremely helpful this last year at least, and she runs the Palouse Writers Guild. I think, is that safe to say you run it? Is that right? Yeah.
Yeah.
And she has a couple of things that she does every year down in somewhere in the south part of the state. And well, anyway, she's very good at all this kind of stuff. And I'm so glad she accepted the invitation to talk with us. And I am going to just turn it over to her and turn her loose. She did mention that she would be happy to take questions along the way rather than waiting to the end. So, and we won't be able to see your faces when the slide program is going. That's the only concern I have. I won't be able to see. Actually, if you want to ask a question, what do you think, Khaliela? They just unmute and go ahead and ask it, or should?
Yeah, that would probably be best because I won't be able to see them. I'll just see the slideshow.
Okay. And so that's the best thing. Just, make sure you don't stomp on each other, and make sure that you do unmute yourself if you're going to talk, because we won't respond to you at all. We can't hear you. So, because we won't see you either. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Khaliela and sit back and enjoy the show along with you all.
Thank you, Linda. I'm happy to be here. So my name is Khaliela Wright. I founded the Palouse Writers Guild, and my degree, I actually have a master's degree in economics. So I'm very comfortable handling a lot of the business side of writing. And a couple years ago, I did go ahead and found my own publishing house, but a lot of the research that I've been doing on writing in the publishing industry has been in that business side. And that's what I'm going to share with you today is some email marketing and author newsletters. I started my newsletter in January. This is 2023. So January of 2022, I started it with one person. That was me. And as of this morning, I have 232 people. So in 18 months, I've grown it to, almost 250. And you guys could do it too, just by following along with the steps that I'm going to show you. So what I'm going to start with is a PowerPoint presentation on email marketing or author newsletters. Share my screen. Can everybody see my screen? Don't nod. You have to say words.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Okay. So the topic for tonight is Between the Pages, a practical guide to creating author newsletters. So what is an author newsletter? Well, first and foremost, a newsletter is just a letter. I like to think of it as just pinning a letter to my favorite cousin, kind of be a little cheeky when I'm doing it. But basically, newsletters are letters. I have to move this screen because it's hiding my stuff. They're an informal communication that contains timely, relevant, and valuable information delivered only to a select group of people for the purposes of providing updates, insider information, and building and maintaining relationships. Author newsletters are just a regular email campaign used to connect with your readers, build brand loyalty, and market directly to subscribers who have opted to receive it. And that's the important thing, is that we're talking to people who actually want to receive our email. We aren't spamming people who didn't join in the list. And I'm going to talk about how to get subscribers later, but this is only for people who've actually said, yes, please send me a newsletter. Oh. No, Jerry's asking, are newsletters similar to blogs? And they're not. And I'm going to talk about that right now. So how is a newsletter different from email marketing or a blog? So blogs focus on evergreen content that's going to be available publicly. So on my blog, I've got all kinds of things. I have a couple of stuff on banned books. So I've got book bans recently in Idaho, movies based on banned books. These are things that people can go back to over and over again, and it's always going to be relevant. People are always going to want to know which books were banned in Idaho since 2020, right? The difference is the newsletter is only going out to a select group of people, and it contains more of that insider information. And I'll show you some examples of my newsletters, but it'll contain updates on my project. So, I'll say, oh, ARCs are here, and show a picture of the books coming with the ARCs, or stuff that's not necessarily going to the blog. I'm not going to put a picture of the ARCs, or, a picture of the inside of something that's been edited. So I'm not going to give those sorts of updates on my blogs. I'm going to focus more on evergreen content. But those are exactly the kind of things that I would put in a newsletter, is project updates. And then email marketing focuses on selling your book using urgent messages and calls to action. And these are mostly transactional in nature. And you can set your newsletter up to also do email marketing. But a lot of it we're going to focus on is stuff that's outside of that transactional information. All right, so why authors need newsletters? 77% of marketers saw an increase in email engagement over the past 12 months. And a lot of that has to do with the pandemic and how most of us have just moved into online mode for just about everything. The percentage of each generation who believes email is the most personal channel to receive communication from brands, and you as an author are a brand, is extremely high across all generations. So you see boomers really like email at 74%. Gen X is not far behind at 62%, and Gen Z still prefers email at 60%. So if you're sending emails, that's exactly how people want it to receive things. One of the nice things about email is that it's there and I can see it when I want to see it. Whereas with social media, you don't always see what you scroll and it's gone. Whereas with your email, you can go back and read later. And I think a lot of people really do appreciate that with email. 59% of people claim that marketing emails have influenced their purchasing decisions. 50% of people buy from marketing emails at least once a month. Okay, so these are already people who are conditioned to buy things through email. One of the huge benefits of having a newsletter is that only 15.8% of all emails go missing or get caught in spam filters. That means you're reaching 85% of your audience. And I like to say that with an email newsletter, you fully control your list. You can reach those readers versus with social media where only about 10% of your friends or followers are going to see it. So you're missing 90%. So that's why email is huge, is because you can actually get it to the people you want to receive it versus relying on somebody else's algorithm. And then the last thing, return ROI, that's return on investment for email marketing, is a whopping $36 for each $1 spent. I don't know if any of you have tried doing Amazon ads where your return on investment might be like $4 for each dollar spent, or if you've tried doing like Facebook ads where your return on investment is like $1.50 for each dollar spent. So with email, when you send out and say, hey, my new book is going to be published, you're way more likely to have people buy it than you are if you were to do an Amazon ad or a Facebook ad. Okay, so how often to send a newsletter? No more than once a week. My biggest thing with newsletters is that if you're writing a newsletter, you're not writing a novel. So that takes away. So as a writer, I don't want to spend a lot of time writing a newsletter. But at the same time, you don't want to send less than once a quarter. And the reason is if you send newsletters too often, you're going to overwhelm your reader and they're going to start viewing it as spam and they're going to unsubscribe. If you send newsletters too infrequently, they're going to forget that they even subscribed. They're going to be like, why do I need this? And then they'll unsubscribe. So you want to try and hit a sweet spot. A lot of people shoot for monthly. I'm a busy person, so I do quarterly newsletters, and I just let everybody know once a quarter, this is what you're getting. So I do a spring, summer, fall edition. The main thing is that whatever you choose, consistency is the key. So when I send mine out, I send it out spring, summer, fall, winter. If you're going to do it monthly, do it that way. If you're going to do it every other month, whatever you choose, you have to be consistent about it so that people know and can expect that your newsletter is coming. So some newsletter basics. Types of newsletters. The first one is a single detailed topic. This one works really, really great for people who write nonfiction because they can give a lot of data on a specific topic that would be relevant to their readers. The other type is what's called a smorgasbord, where you give a whole bunch of information. And I sort of do that where I'll have my main topic, maybe some book reviews, and a little bit about any project updates that I've got going on. That way people have a couple of different things that they can choose to read or not read. The main thing to remember is newsletters are not social media, right? These are not tweets. A newsletter should be long and meaty. I mean, not super long. You want to keep articles between 300 and 500 words. But you want to keep that content value high and frequency low. Because like I said, if you send it out too much, you're going to people are going to feel like spam. The other thing with newsletters is that you should focus on not selling your book. Newsletter subscribers are super fans. Most of them will already have bought your book. I mean, you're definitely going to let them know when you have a new book coming out, and that because these super fans are going to be the people most likely to buy it. But you still need to give them quality information in the months that you are not selling a book. So book reviews, news of the weird, all of those sorts of things. Focus on project updates so that your newsletter readers become emotionally invested in your work. And then I've got some content ideas here. So author related information, any update about your work and project or your book. If you want to do freebies and giveaways, you say it's Mother's Day, or if you have a book about grandparents and it's Grandparents' Day coming up, those sorts of things. Random bits of fun. I know some people just like to send out news of the weird. Any sort of reader engagement. I know in one of my newsletters, a friend of mine sent me a picture of a truck on a very large rock, and I have no idea how the truck got there. And so I just sent the picture out in the newsletter, and I was like, give me a 50-word story on how this happened and when it will be featured in the next newsletter. So that sort of reader engagement, because then they're replying back to you and you get to see how they thought the truck ended up on the rock. And then writing community updates. I have more content ideas available on my website, and I will make that link available at the end of the presentation. So does anyone have questions so far? Okay, hearing none. All right, parts of an author newsletter. Branded header. So what that means is that whatever your newsletter is, you're going to have a header at the top, just like you would on business letters, that identifies what it is and what people are getting with the newsletter. And you're going to put it exactly the same on every newsletter that you do. The second one is the body of the newsletter. That's where you're going to put all of your information, book reviews, whatever it is, the meaty story part of your newsletter. And then a made for marketing signature. So that's going to be ways to share your newsletter, how to connect with you on social media. All of those things are going to go in that signature. So here is, this is actually a sample of a marketing newsletter that I sent out to let people know about my upcoming Kickstarter, which is now since passed. But as you can see, I've got that header, that says the hind end. It goes on everybody so they know what it is. Then I've got the middle ground. At the end, I always include a little short biography, and then you can see I've got links to every social media account I've got. So Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Pinterest, Goodreads. If you're on Goodreads, definitely include that. There's an Amazon link down there, a YouTube link, as well as ways to share it. So all of that goes in there. Then also in Made for Marketing signatures, what I've got here directly under it with my signature is actually my email signature. So anybody who's gotten an email from me has seen this. And it's got all of the same information plus links to my website, and at the very bottom, subscribe for free. And you can have these signatures made and imported into your Gmail account or whatever email account you want. This particular one I did through what's called WiseStamp. And you go in and you create it in their program and then tell them which email address you want it attached to, and so that you have a really great email signature. And it does work. I do get subscribers through my email signature where people will click it and subscribe to my newsletter. I know when I'm sending out a bunch of emails, I get a lot more hits on my website because people are seeing in the signature the website and it's driving them to that. So definitely go with those Made for Marketing signatures because it gives you a lot of different ways to connect and a lot of different ways for your readers to connect to you. Any questions? No? All right, newsletter software. So you saw that my newsletter was really pretty. There's a lot of different programs available to help you do that. So newsletter software enables authors to send mass email campaigns, manage subscribers, and automate workflows. I'm going to say choose wisely because once you start with one, it's going to be really hard for you to be like, I'm done with MailChimp, I'm going to go try something else. And then you end up scrapping your list and having to start all over. So these are some of the newsletter software providers out there: MailerLite, MailChimp, Campaign Monitor, MailJet, Sendinblue, and I'm sure there are more. Most of these are free up to a certain number of subscribers. I actually use MailerLite. I really love it. And I think it's free up to like 500 or 1,000 subscribers. So you've got like lots of room to grow before you have to worry about paying for anything. And it allows you to do a lot of those graphics that you saw in that sample newsletter, where you can have buttons and you can have, pretty colors for all of your different social media. So these programs come in really handy when you're doing newsletters. Once you've committed to a platform, don't try to send out a newsletter right away. You should take a couple of months to play with the platform and get familiar with it before trying to send out an email. So the first step you need to do is verify your email address. If you don't do that, you're more likely to end up in spam, and they'll have lots of steps in the programs to walk you through how to do each of these things. Definitely familiarize yourself with the dashboard and the stats that are going to be coming in. Create groups, even if the only member is you. So I have a couple of different groups in my newsletters that I segment them. I have the Khaliela Wright group that gets anything that Khaliela does. And then I have a Palouse Writers group that only gets Palouse Writers Guild emails. So you can segment them however you want. You can segment them by whether or not they've made a purchase in the past. I could have segmented them by people who contributed to my Kickstarter and people who didn't. That way I know who I'm sending things out. And then you want to become proficient with content editing. I know with MailerLite, they use a drag and drop editor, which once you create and have everything set up the way you want, you can save it as a template. And then all you're doing is changing the text because everything's going to be there. The header's there, the footer's there, the links are there, which makes it really easy once you've mastered that. I can now create a newsletter in probably under 30 minutes and have it beautiful and sent it out. And then you're going to want to set up email automation triggers. So this happens to be when you're collecting subscribers. So if you send out on a landing page and people subscribe to your newsletter, you want it to automatically send them the most recent newsletter. And I'll show you how to do that here in the next thing, because it says open MailerLite tab. So So this is my mailer light tab. And this is the old one. I'm in the process of migrating to the new one. So if I go into campaigns, it shows you every newsletter that I've sent out since I started doing newsletters, which is all
Sorry.
really.
We can just see your PowerPoint.
Oh, you can only see the PowerPoint.
You may have to stop sharing and share again.
Stop share. Share screen. Can you see it now?
Yes.
Perfect. Okay. So this is inside my mailer light. So you can see I've got the different newsletters that I've got going on. So those are called campaigns. You can segment your subscribers, sites, but the one I wanted to talk to you about here is automation. So if I go into automation and it says that the summer 2023 is active, basically that means when somebody signs up for the newsletter, it's automatically going to send them the summer 2023. You know, before it was the spring one and I just turned it off when I did the summer one. In the new mailer light, that you can actually do multiple step automation. And so this is one where I collected newsletter signatures. People signed up at the farmer's market because I was out in front of book people. It says it's inactive now, but let's just go in. And I set it up to do a two-step automation, which means that when I added them to the group, they'd get this welcome aboard email. And then I had it wait 2 days, and then they would get the summer 2023 newsletter. So you can do all sorts of things. And then when people sign up, you don't have to do anything. It just happens automatically. So if I go into my dashboard, here's my subscriber growth. And so far in August, I've had 2 new subscribers. They've already gotten those. I didn't have to do anything because it was all set up that when they would subscribe, they'd automatically get this. Same thing for July. I got 4. I didn't even have to think about it. That's why I love the automations, is because it just happens without me having to thinking about it. And then, you know, when October rolls around and I'm ready to send out the fall newsletter, I just turn this automation off, send out the fall newsletter, and then set up a new automation so that people will automatically get the fall one, because that will be the most recent one when I subscribe. So does that make sense to everybody?
Really nicely done. Thanks.
Oh, thank you. Do you guys have any questions before I move on in the presentation? No. Okay. So go back. All right. Can you see my PowerPoint now?
Yes.
Okay. Oops. All right, so I've talked about collecting subscribers. There's a bunch of different ways to do that. The first one is what's called a direct ask, and that is asking someone specifically to sign up to your newsletter. This may include asking subscribers to sign up at events like I did in front of book people a couple weeks ago, or at Palouse Writers Fest with Books and Brews. Like anytime you're at an event, just put out a clipboard and ask people if they want to sign up for your newsletter. The other thing that you should do is that you should put an ask in your back matter. So in the back of the book, just say, hey, you could sign up for my newsletter and this is how. Or sending out email requests with a subscription link, which is another thing that I did when I started with just me, is I went through my email list or my email address book in Gmail and I sent a personal email to every single person in my email address list and just said, hey, I'm starting a newsletter. Here's the link. I'd appreciate it if you'd sign up. And I did get 59 people who signed up doing that. The other way to get subscribers is with what's called a landing page. So landing pages are standalone web pages created specifically with email marketing in mind. That should be where with an H, where someone lands after clicking a link in an email, in an ad, or on social media. These can be pinned to the top of your social media accounts or attached to your web page using a custom link. I pin all of them to the top of all of my email, or not to my email, but to all of my social media accounts. So let me show you a landing page. So this is my subscription landing page that I have at the top of, just pinned at the top of every single social media I have. So Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, you name it. So it's got information about me. And then you can see here is the place where you subscribe. Then information about my website, my publishing house, the Palouse Writers Guild, and then of course, you know, how to buy my book. So that's it. It's really simple. The only thing they can do is buy the book or subscribe to the newsletter. Okay, the other one is what I called a book tour landing page. And when I was, the month that I was publishing and doing tours, this is what I had pinned to the top. And then I also made a custom link on my website so that everybody could find it there as well. So this one provided, again, specific information. Can everybody see the book tour landing page?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So these you create in MailerLite. You can see they're very simple web pages. You can provide links to buy the book, wherever you want to buy the book. And then again, this one has a newsletter sign up. So they put their email in there, they'll automatically start getting the newsletter. And then I also included sample newsletters so that they could see what sort of newsletter they were getting. Because a lot of people are afraid that when you sign up for a newsletter, that all you're going to do is send them buy my book over and over and over again, when really you need to be providing different content. So I've got everything from International Shakespeare Day to Mad Hatter Day, all sorts of topics, and enjoy the journey. So those are my two landing pages. And they were actually very easy to create in MailerLite. All right, can you see the PowerPoint again?
Yes.
Perfect. All right. So another way to collect subscribers is through pop-ups. And I'm sure you're all familiar with pop-ups because everybody who's been anywhere on the web has been annoyed by a pop-up. So pop-ups are advertisements that appear automatically when someone lands on a website. They can be programmed to appear after a specific amount of time has elapsed or limited to only appearing during specific time frames. So this is the pop-up that I have on my webpage. Again, I made this in MailerLite, and then I just copied and pasted the code onto my website to create this pop-up. The great thing about the pop-ups in MailerLite is that I could limit it. So my pop-up only shows up if you've been on my website for at least 90 seconds. So I know that you're not just clicking through and clicking away. It's something that you're interested in. And then I have it set to show up no more than either once a week or once a month, because I know people do get annoyed with pop-ups. You don't want to see this thing every time you go to the website. So those are some benefits of doing pop-ups through MailerLite. And this particular pop-up, I've gotten 36 subscribers since I started this pop-up. And I think I've only been doing it for about a year. So, I mean, I'm not bringing in millions of people, but every new subscriber is great when you're an unknown author. The other way to collect subscribers is through forms. And so an embed form is a form embedded directly into your website for the purpose of gathering emails and adding them to your newsletter. These come in either subscription forms or as lead magnets. So subscription forms are just like what they say, like subscribe to this newsletter. A lead magnet is something where you're going to give them something value in exchange for that email address. So if they want what you have, they have to give you the email address first, and then you'll give them what they want. So these forms are created in your email service, which for me is MailerLite. Then I just copy and paste that code directly into my website where I want the form to appear as part of my web page. So this is my subscription form. So if you go to my About page, this is what you'll see. You do not need to know code to do this. MailerLite, when you build the subscription form, it creates all of the code for you. And then what I do on my website, because I use WordPress, is I will just go in and then copy and paste it straight into WordPress, and it comes out beautiful. Okay. And then these are my lead magnets. So because my main area of expertise is economics and marketing and business, that's where I put my lead magnets. So I have a book marketing checklist in one of my blog posts. You enter your email address. It gets added to my newsletter. And then in exchange, they get a link to Google Drive where they can download a book marketing checklist. Same thing with the other one, they'll get a link for a Google Drive where they can go in and download an Excel spreadsheet for budgeting. I'm not sure if it's Excel or PDF at this point, but there are ways that you can set that up. And again, it's all explained. There's lots of how-tos in MailerLite, so you can put these up, and then you do get, people will give you email addresses in exchange for these. Other things that you can do for lead magnets, if you're primarily a fiction writer, is that you can have bonus chapters. So if you have a chapter that got cut from a book, that would be a great lead magnet for those super fans. Like, give me your email and I'll give you this extra chapter. If you write sci-fi and fantasy and you have a map or, other things, those can be used as lead magnets. A lot of times people will give you that email in exchange for something else. All right. So for more information, I did a author newsletter blog post, and this is the address, www.khalielawright.com/author newsletters. And if you go there, it's going to have all of the information on newsletter content and content ideas, and also the information on how to create those beautiful marketing signatures there. So with that, do you guys have any questions?
I have a question.
Yes.
Hi, Khaliela. I wonder what your goals are going forward for your email marketing and how many people that you expect to get in the next year.
I have no idea. So as far as how many I'm going to get, I don't know. I do know that since I have published, I've gotten a big uptick in views to my website. I'm now getting over 1,000 views a month consistently. In fact, for August, I've already got over 800 and we're only halfway through the month. And some of those are becoming subscribers. As far as what I'm going to do with my newsletter going forward is I'm going to continue doing what I've already done because that's proven to work. So I give, my main article is something that's sort of timely, sort of relevant. Like in October, it was Mad Hatter Day. In April, it was International Shakespeare Day. So I write something about that, usually something cheeky, something fun. And then below that, I give like a brief behind the scenes project update. So the next one coming out in October will be about where I am in book 2, and it's short, like less than 100 words, maybe even less than 50. Like, this is what's happening. And then below that, I give book recommendations because I'm a avid reader. I read over 100 books a year. So I choose 3 books a quarter that I focus. I try to vary them. So I try to do something fantasy because I love fantasy. I try to do something nonfiction because not everybody loves fantasy as much as I do. And then just one book that's just off the cuff, whatever. So I try to choose 3 and I give book recommendations in all of them. And that seems to be working really well. Any other questions? So
Listen.
oh, go ahead.
Hi, I came in a little bit late. How often do you publish your newsletter? Is it monthly or quarterly?
I do mine quarterly. So I just do one for spring, summer, fall, and winter and try to keep it seasonal themed. Does anybody else here have a newsletter or have they found things that work good for them?
Just wanted to ask about, so you also have a blog? And
Yeah,
it's
I have a
still separate-
website.
And it's
and I can-
separate subscriptions?
You don't need a subscription for the website. That's just visible to anybody. I mean, I'll the link.
Okay, so I see, because I've been doing a blog, but I have people subscribe to it. So instead of a newsletter, I've been doing a blog, and I've kind of put that on hold recently and trying to figure out where to go next. And I think maybe I'd do a newsletter.
Yeah, so my website is, I do something on my website monthly. And it could just be a publishing update, only if I've actually had something published. So I'll say, I had an article in Idaho Magazine. That's my thing for that month, so that the content is always fresh on the website. And I do try to get evergreen posts out there, but the newsletter is that behind the scenes information that nobody else is going to see, which really encourages people to sign up because they're not going to see it on the website. It's nowhere else. That way, when the time comes, I can send out an email, like I sent out my Kickstarter email to those people who I know are most likely to buy it because they're most invested. And I ran my Kickstarter in March and I raised over $3,000 in 30 days, which, as a lot of you guys are self-published authors, that's a ton of money. Like, most people don't make that in a year. So to do it in 30 days through this newsletter system worked really well.
Great.
I think Steve has a wonderful newsletter too. Maybe you wanted to mention that. Historical.
Yeah, I write historical novels and based in ancient Greece and Egypt. And mine comes out monthly, and the focus of it is to cover the research that doesn't wind up in my books, because I spend so much time on research, etc. So I have a topic like this one, historically speaking, is from April, and it's about clothing, the cloth that the ancient Greeks and Egyptians did, and I had to learn an awful lot about that process. So I have that. I do post all of my, I put them out through an email as a PDF file, and they're 2 pages long. And I do post them on my website as back issues, so people can go back and take a look at any of the ones that I've done. I've been doing this for, since January of 2022. So the monthly ones have gone out. I've also been blogging daily on Monday, it'll be 2 years. And at that point, I'm cutting it off on the daily and going to something a good deal less regular. But the blogging has been just a real brief statement on what's happening with my writing journey.
Yeah, those are really great newsletter ideas. A lot of people are really curious about writers and how they come up with the stuff that goes into their books. And I know Mark has done a ton of research in his book because he's writing about also a historical, it's World War II. And so there's tons of stuff that readers will just eat up because it's that backstory that they're always desperate to know more. Those are the super fans. So those are great things to put in newsletters. I'm hearing silence. That means I must have scared you all.
It was so thorough. It was a great
Yeah.
job, Khaliela.
Yeah, I mean, you've done a lot and it's inspiring and it's helpful to see your examples. So thank you. And I can't think of any more to ask. You've covered a lot.
No.
I'm
no,
glad
this
pretty
is-
well done.
I'm glad this is recorded because I'll be able to go back and because there's an awful lot of information there, and I'll be able to go back through and revisit it when it's posted on YouTube.
Yeah, and the main thing is when you choose your newsletter software to just spend a couple of months getting comfortable with it before you try sending out a newsletter. I know it took me a long time. I'll say I probably spent a full month just getting comfortable with the drag and drop newsletter and MailerLite. But now that I've got it, I just open up the next or last month's newsletter and hit copy, and then I just put in new content. That way the format and everything is there, and they come out looking really beautiful, which is what I like. I like lots of pictures, lots of images, because our society has become very visual. Facebook used to be just text. How many of you remember that, where we just wrote and we didn't have pictures and we didn't have videos and we didn't have scrolls and reels and all sorts of things? And so we've become a more visual society, and this newsletter software does allow you to add those visualizations that help catch people's eye.
Khaliela,
Yes.
when do you really want to start your newsletter in relationship to your publishing of your book?
Before.
Just before.
Yeah, and that's why I did book reviews. Sometimes I did other local authors. Sometimes it was just a book that I found was great, but that way I was getting people used to getting content from me, and they were used to getting content where I wasn't selling anything. And so they were becoming emotionally invested in me so that I became the brand they knew and trusted before I was like, oh, and by the way, give me your money. So definitely, like, way before you publish, think about, yeah, I'm going to start this newsletter and it'll have a little bit about what I'm writing, but then it'll have other things about my life. It could be something about your pets, or if you're big into gardening, and that's what the thing is, newsletters are letters. I try to think of mine as like what I would send my cousins. We're all big readers, and so that's why we all share book reviews. Like my mom will post something on Facebook, and pretty soon you've got like 10 cousins going, oh, I read that. So whatever it is that you're into, share that with your readers.
He has wonderful photography skills, and he sends me pictures of his garden, and they're gorgeous. Sometimes the bees and the butterflies and it's just neat.
Yeah,
Okay.
don't be afraid to share your personal life with your readers, because that's what makes them feel invested in you. And it becomes a personal journey of them coming with you along with your writing versus, you just saying, hey, buy this book. Think about all the different authors and the way people hang on to, I don't know, I think George R.R. Martin, like how many fans would just be dying to know whether or not he grows tomatoes, right?
Layla, I wondered, you were so nice and you did this for free. And do you have any workshops or things that you do from time to time where people register and you charge?
Yeah, for the Palouse Writers Guild in the summer, I do set up workshops that we charge. A lot of times what I'm doing with my workshops and my blogs is that it's a question that I want answered. And so I figure if I'm going to go look up all the answer, somebody else probably has the same question, and I'm just happy to share it.
That's very, very good of you. You're a
Yeah.
good person. Yeah. That's the way I've always felt. I don't, of course, I don't put in the hours on my presentations like you do when I have to come up with something month after month and just transfer information to people. I don't have time to critify it. So that's, people have labored through my long text thing for a long time. But, I might try to do a newsletter someday for the guild, but at this point I just do short bulletin. I just say, this, and this, and here's the link for the next thing, and that's it. So
Well, I have the benefit of being very tech savvy. I actually taught business computers for LCSC. So for me, you know, it doesn't take that much longer to make it pretty, but I already know what I'm doing versus somebody who's like, oh, I have to learn this software.
well, I'm kind of a techie too, but I've got 4 book clubs in addition to the guild, and so they keep me hopping. I just don't, and so many reviews that I do. You were talking about 100 books a year, and I was thinking, well, I'm usually 30 to 50 books a month.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I speed read a lot, so I can get away with it. But yeah, I don't much do anything other than eat, sleep, and read books. So, and one of the things that's interesting, I like what you said about how we've become more visual. When I first started doing I've got long lists of email lists for book clubs and for the guild. And I promised people that I would keep everything very short, and it would be like just a text bulletin, because they were all at the time not wanting their email things all clogged up with long things. But I think times have changed, and I think now it's just as fast to look at a visual newsletter as it is a text one, maybe even easier, because you don't have to, read through a lot of stuff. So I don't know, have you noticed change over time, or have you always tried to be visual?
Yeah, I have become more visual over time, just because partly because the technology allows it. It's easier to do that now. And people do like a lot of visuals, but there's also a trend, especially for blogs, for longer blog posts. So for a while, it was like 500 words max. And some of my best blog posts, they'll go 2,000 words, 3,000 words, where people really want a more meatier topic. So they are craving more information, but they want that information, with headings and bullets, and they want it really, really easy to consume versus just big blocks of texts.
Sure. Thank you. I appreciate that. Good input. Well, gang, unless you can think of any last minute whatevers and announcements and questions and comments, I think goodness sakes, this is the first time we've been early. It's like still almost 10 minutes to the hour, but hey, we all have to walk slowly in this heat, so maybe that's not such a bad idea. This was wonderful, Khaliela. I really appreciate it. It's been wonderful, and I will do my best to try to get this up on YouTube as fast as I can, and then folks that are friends of Khaliela, that she will have it as well. So, I think you can download from YouTube, can't you?
Well, we'll find out.
Yeah, if not, they translate it. And so, but it may be that you'd be able to use it the way it comes from. They do a translation right out. It takes them a considerable amount of time for them to set the thing up from after the workshop or the presentation. So the Zoom people do it, and then I upload that, and then YouTube does something else to it. So it goes through so many steps. It's like I can't promise to anybody, oh yeah, I'll send you this and it'll work. But we'll try. Maybe I'll just be able to send you that one. It's just so much. It's huge. They're usually, a couple 100,000 K. So anyway.
Yeah, sometimes if you put them in a Google Drive, and then we can share it that way.
Good. I don't use that, but
oh, okay.
But I think you can download from, and I'll try to set it up so it can be if there's any blockages on YouTube once you go to the link. And if we have trouble, we'll figure it out. There's always.
All right. Thank you, everybody.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Khaliela.
Thanks.
I appreciate it. And next month, theoretically, Frank Zafiro will be here with crime writing, how to get it right. So I think you'll enjoy that one too. And have a wonderful rest of the, month. hope you don't melt and supposed to get nicer soon. Let's hope.
Yeah.
Thumbs crossed, okay? Bye, everybody.
Goodbye.
Bye.